So nowadays, it's really easy for everyone to start a blog and start writing your first few travel essays, but there are a few things that you can keep in mind that will help you write a much better travel essay. So the first piece of advice that I would definitely give you is to make sure that you take off those rose-tinted glasses once in a while. When you just arrive in a place, it can seem like paradise, especially if you haven't traveled in a while, but it can also make your writing seem a bit superficial. What I'd also advise you is to try and not be too cynical about the cliches, because we've all been there. You've gone to a place, you expected it to be really beautiful and authentic, but in reality it's a bit of a tourist trap. But when you travel to a place, you as a traveler or tourist, because where's the distinction really, contribute to this process, and don't go after the locals for being business savvy and buying into the whole business that's created by the crowds of tourists that go there. Of course they will do that, and it's their every right to do that. So try not to be too bitter or cynical about a place that's turned into a bit of a tourist trap. So another really important piece of advice that I'd like to give you is that you try and be careful and don't fall into the trap of cultural superiority. And what I mean by that is that you don't assume automatically that a culture is more backwards just because you think or have seen that a certain part of a country or a culture is less developed in a sense. A cultural practice in your country can seem just as weird to somebody from another culture, so just keep that in mind. Then another thing I'd like to remind you of is to pay attention to the religious and political nuances in a country. Because, before you go, it's actually really good if you research that a little bit. What are the main religions? What are the laws? What are the laws regarding traffic and photography? Those are all things you should kind of know before you go, but also about the political situation. Try and avoid embarrassing statements in your own travel essay because you're not educated on certain aspects of a culture. You can avoid that, and I think if you want to write about it, it's kind of your responsibility to inform yourself about these nuances. And then my final piece of advice would be to be careful of overgeneralizations. So try and avoid sweeping statements. Sure, if you've lived in a country for multiple years, you've researched the topics, you know your facts, go ahead and claim the things you want to claim. But if you've just gone on a trip or maybe two trips to a place, you've only been to a certain region or maybe an island, don't try to not make yourself sound like an expert. Share your observations, have fun doing that, of course, but avoid overgeneralizations about an entire country. It's an entire religion, this whole culture based on this one trip. But most importantly, what I want to tell you with this video is that you have to stay open-minded, and that'll help you be a much better traveler, and it will help you write much better essays. Because, if you let go of expectations, just let a place tell its own story, give a voice to those you encounter along the way and listen to their story. In the end, your story will be so much better for it. So go ahead, write down your observations, have fun writing those first few travel essays, and I'm sure you'll have an amazing time.